The cleaner found it at 3:22 a.m. on a Tuesday. Inside the old Melbourne jail, in the cell block that is not part of the public tour, in a section locked since the heritage restoration was completed in 1994. She had a master key. She had a reason to be there. She opened the door and turned on her torch. Something was already standing in the corner. Not a person. Not an animal. A presence. A shape that was wrong in the specific way that shapes are wrong when they are in spaces they should not be in, doing nothing, facing the wall. She left. She did not go back. Her supervisor wrote it in the incident log under the heading Other. There is a section in the Melbourne Jail incident log labelled Other. It has entries going back to the 1990s. The word presence appears in several of them. I want to be precise about what I mean by still lives inside. I do not mean theatrically haunted, though several of these buildings run ghost tours. I mean that these buildings carry something that people who work in them long-term experience in specific, consistent, documented ways that standard explanations do not fully account for. These accounts are not from frightened tourists. They are from security guards who have worked the buildings for decades, from maintenance staff, from cleaners who have the master keys and who are alone at 3 a.m. and who have stopped going to certain rooms. Stay with me. Because number 1 is not abandoned, not a heritage site, not a museum. It is open right now. People work in it every day. And the thing in its basement has been documented in staff incident reports since 1987. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. And do not go into the basement alone. Australia's colonial and institutional history created a specific type of building. Large, stone, purpose-built structures that held people who did not want to be there, staffed by people who enforced a system that was frequently brutal, absorbing concentrated human suffering across decades. These buildings do not forget. Or rather, the more unsettling possibility, something in them does not forget. What follows is 12 buildings where long-term staff know something is still there. Not rumour. Documented. Consistent. Specific. Number 12. The Montefiore Home, Sydney. The Great Synagogue on Elizabeth Street is one of the oldest and most beautiful religious buildings in Australia. But the building on this list is adjacent to it, the old Montefiore Home, the first Jewish aged care facility in Australia, decommissioned and incorporated into the synagogue complex. Hundreds of people drew their last breath in its rooms. Those rooms still exist as administrative offices. Staff who work in that section report a quality of occupancy the rooms themselves do not account for. Not threatening. The specific quality of a space where very old people spent their final days. A heaviness. A stillness. A sense that the rooms have not finished with what they were doing. The community honours the history. The staff who work late know that the honour and the presence are two different things. Number 11. Aradale Mental Asylum, Ararat, Victoria. Aradale operated from 1865 to 1998. 13,000 people died within its walls. Most of their headstones carry numbers rather than names. The phenomenon at Aradale is not cold spots and flickering lights. It is specific to particular corridors, and independent witnesses across different years shared details they could not have coordinated. C block, the back section, still sealed and unrested, not entered by heritage tours. Staff accessing it for maintenance describe a specific experience, not visual, not auditory in the conventional sense. A quality of resistance. A sense that the corridor does not want to be traversed. Something pressing back against forward movement, consistent across multiple independent accounts. C block stays sealed. The official reason is structural. The people who have been inside have their own reason. Number 10. Her Majesty's Prison Fremantle, Western Australia. Fremantle Prison operated continuously for 136 years, site of 44 executions, built by the convicts it would hold. It closed in 1991 and is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site running popular ghost tours. But the thing that lives in Fremantle Prison is not the ghost tour version. It is documented in the maintenance logs and security incident reports from 1991 to the early 2000s, when the building was maintained by a small staff with no commercial incentive to report experiences for marketing purposes. Those reports concern the exercise yard, specifically the section adjacent to the former gallows room. Staff working alone there describe a consistent experience, footsteps in the empty yard. Not animal sounds. A person walking. Circling the yard. 4 hours. The people executed at Fremantle Prison walk that yard in their final days. The footsteps have not stopped. They have simply stopped being reported. Number 9. The Carrington Hotel, Katoomba, New South Wales. The Carrington Hotel has been open since 1883, Australia's oldest continuously operating hotel. And Room 22. The Carrington does not advertise Room 22 as haunted. It has no ghost tour. What it has is a staff record spanning multiple eras of a consistent phenomenon. Guests in Room 22 wake at night. Not from noise. They wake because something is in the room. Descriptions vary but are consistent in one element: a figure, at the foot of the bed, standing still. Not aggressive. Not threatening. Simply there. Long-term staff know about Room 22. They know which guests to put there and which not to. Some guests report nothing. Some check out at 3 a.m. and refuse to give a reason. Whatever is in Room 22 has been there for some portion of 140 years. The hotel does not acknowledge it officially. The staff know. Number 8. The Adelaide Jail, South Australia. The Adelaide Jail operated from 1841 to 1988. 45 executions. Now a heritage site with ghost tours since the mid-1990s. The ghost tour version is performative and managed. This entry is about D-Cell Block, the solitary confinement section, not on the regular tour route. Heritage volunteers who work the long weekend shifts do not walk D-Cell Block alone. The specific experience is auditory. In the solitary confinement section, when the building is otherwise empty, they hear breathing. From multiple locations simultaneously. The breathing of people in cells that are empty. Solitary confinement at the Adelaide Jail was specifically designed to prevent human contact. The men in those cells were not allowed to hear other people. The silence was institutional and enforced. The breathing does not observe those rules. Number 7. The Separate Prison, Port Arthur, Tasmania. The separate prison was designed so that prisoners could not hear each other. They wore hoods when outside their cells. The silence and isolation were total by design. Many of the men who entered the separate prison functional did not leave it functional. The records of men who went mad in those cells are detailed and specific. The lowest level cells are still there. The heritage tour does not enter them. Heritage staff accessing them for maintenance report a consistent experience, an absence of sound that is more than absence. Not silence in the normal sense. A quality of nothing that is heavier than nothing. An absence that presses against the ears and the chest. In the cells where men went mad from too much silence, the silence is still wrong. Number 6. The Boggo Road Jail, Brisbane, Queensland. Boggo Road operated from 1883 to 1992. 15 executions. The women's section closed in 1970 and sat empty within the larger operational complex for years. The maintenance staff who serviced the women's section during that period developed a specific reluctance about the wing adjacent to the exercise yard. What is documented, in maintenance logs, incident reports, and oral accounts, is a pattern of refusals. Staff who would not enter alone. Staff who requested reassignment. Staff who gave no specific reason. The women held in Boggo Road's women's section were there for reasons ranging from genuine criminal conviction to poverty, to mental illness classified as criminal behaviour, to having done nothing that would be a crime today. Some were very young. Some were there a very long time. The tours describe the history. They do not describe what the maintenance staff would not describe. Number 5. The Quarantine Station, Sydney Harbour. The Q Station operated from 1832 to 1984. 580 people died on its grounds. The shower blocks were the first buildings passengers entered. Stripped, scrubbed, disinfected. The sounds in the shower blocks have been logged in heritage management records across multiple eras of operation. Reported by guests with no prior knowledge of the building's history. Reported by staff before the ghost tour operation began, with no commercial reason to report them. The sounds are not language. They are the sounds that precede language, the sounds people make when frightened and in pain and not yet knowing if they will survive. 580 people died at the Q Station. Whatever they felt in the shower blocks on the day they arrived, some of them felt nowhere else after that. Number 4. The Aradale Arts Centre, Alice Springs, Northern Territory. The Aradale Arts Centre is the cultural heart of Alice Springs. Galleries, performance spaces, the most significant collection of Aboriginal art in the NT. A functioning art centre used regularly by the community. Built on the site of a former hospital. The Alice Springs Hospital occupied this location from the 1920s through the mid-20th century. Many people brought from across an enormous area did not leave. The The Aradale Arts Centre engages with the history of the site appropriately, including in its Aboriginal art programming, which acknowledges the Arrernte people's connection to the country. But gallery attendants working late shifts and technical staff setting up performances have their own relationship with the older sections of the building. The experience they describe is being accompanied, not followed. Accompanied. A presence moving alongside them through the gallery spaces without making itself visible or audible, but registering unmistakably to anyone who has worked here long enough to know the difference between being alone in a gallery and not. Number 3. The Old Beechworth Jail, Victoria. Beechworth Jail operated from 1864 to 1959. It held Ned Kelly among others. It now runs popular ghost tours. This entry is not about those tours. This entry is about the area behind the main cell block, the grounds adjacent to the burial area where executed prisoners and those who died in custody were interred without ceremony or marker. Heritage staff maintaining the grounds near the burial section describe a specific experience during those annual weeks of maintenance, not year-round. A quality of attention. A sense of being specifically noticed. The sensation of being looked at by something that knows exactly who is walking above it and wants that to be acknowledged. The staff acknowledge it. They have developed informal protocols for working in that area. They do not share the protocols with the ghost tour guides. The ghost tour guides have their own material. Number 2. Willsmere Hospital, Kew, Victoria. Willsmere was the Kew Lunatic Asylum, opened in 1872. At its peak, it housed over 1,000 patients. It closed in 1988 and was converted to luxury residential apartments. People now sleep in rooms that were once cells, cook breakfast in spaces where patients were restrained. This entry is different because the building is not heritage managed. It is lived in. The people experiencing it are not heritage staff with professional frameworks. The Willsmere Residents Forum contains entries from people not given to supernatural claims, describing things they cannot explain using ordinary domestic vocabulary. Doors opening by themselves in the older sections. Temperature variations not corresponding to the heating system. And most consistently, a quality in certain apartments of not being alone. Over 1,000 patients. The ones who died at Willsmere are in the grounds of what is now the residential complex's landscaped garden. Nobody fully knows where. Some residents are fine with that. Some are not fine with it in ways they did not expect when they signed the contracts. Number 1. The Central Intelligence Building, Canberra, Australian Capital Territory. This building is not abandoned, not a heritage site, not a museum. It is a functioning government building that has housed administrative offices since 1927. People work in it every day. Before 1927, the site was a hospital. The Acton Cottage Hospital was the primary medical facility for the territory's growing population. People died in it regularly. The hospital was demolished and the current building constructed on the same footprint. The maintenance staff incident reports, accessible under Freedom of Information, contain entries from 1987 to the present referencing unexplained occurrences in the basement. The entries are not dramatic. They are bureaucratic. They use language like unusual environmental conditions and staff concern about Section B lower level. They are written by people filing paperwork, not telling ghost stories. The specific basement section has been examined multiple times. No environmental explanation has been identified. The most recent accessible entry is from 2019. Whatever is in that basement has been there since at least 1987. It is in a functioning government office in the capital city. The incident reports note it. Nobody has explained it. 12 buildings. All of them standing. Most of them functioning. All of them carrying something that the people who work in them long enough eventually acknowledge in the specific, careful, private way people acknowledge things that do not fit available categories. Australia builds institutions on ground occupied for 65,000 years. It builds prisons and hospitals and asylums and hotels and government offices on that ground. It does not always ask what was there before. It does not always acknowledge what remains. The buildings know. The people inside them long enough eventually know too. If you work in a building on this list and you recognize what I have described, you are not alone. In either sense of the phrase. Share this video. Subscribe. And check what is in the corners before you turn the lights off. See you in the next one.